I think a homesteader is anyone who mentally, intentionally moves toward a less dependent, or shall we say disentangled lifestyle from the system. And so you don't have to have a goat or a cow to be a homesteader. You have a homestead mentality, and that means, for example, maybe you go to farmer's market and you buy a bushel of green beans, take them home and can them, for example, for your family. That's a homesteader mentality. You may not it means that you might be in a herd share, getting raw milk in a herd share, and you make your own yogurt, okay, from the raw milk that you get in the herd share. That's a homesteader mentality.
Hello, welcome to Beyond Labels. I'm Dr. Sina McCullough, and I'm here with our favorite farmer, Joel Salatin. And Joel has a new book that you can purchase right now. It's called Homestead Tsunami, Good for Our Country, Critters, and Kids. Joel, this is amazing. Another book. What number is this? Is this like 999,000?
No, it's not number 16. Number 16, yeah.
Number 16. I love it.
Sweet 16.
This is fantastic. I'm excited because Joel has told me he is sending me a copy. So I made the list. I'll get mine soon. I have not read the book yet. I'm eager to do it, but Joel has read me the table of contents, and I'm telling you, I'm like biting at the chomp to get this one. This sounds fabulous. What I want to do first, though, is I want to ask Joel about who is a homesteader? Like, what is the definition of a homesteader in his opinion? Because I think many of us hear the word homesteader and we tend to tune it out, right? We tend to think, oh, that's not me. Like, unless you're in it, unless you're out there on the farm, you're raising pigs, you're growing your own vegetables, we tend to think we're not actually homesteaders. But you have a much broader definition of it that I think might surprise quite a few people. So let's start there. What is your definition of a homesteader?
Yeah, I think a homesteader is anyone who mentally, intentionally moves toward a less dependent, or shall we say disentangled lifestyle from the system. And so you don't have to have a goat or a cow to be a homesteader. You have a homestead mentality, and that means, for example, maybe you go to farmer's market and you buy a bushel of green beans, take them home and can them, for example, for your family. That's a homesteader mentality. It means that you might be in a herd share, getting raw milk in a herd share, and you make your own yogurt, okay, from the raw milk that you get in the herd share. That's a homesteader mentality. Think of it as a human pack rat, that kind of get your own stuff, find your own stuff, get your own stuff, and indeed, I would even suggest takes an interest in vocational skills, to learn how to fix a small engine, to learn how to do some woodworking, to learn a barterable skill, so that if the wheels fall off and you are in a position, so you have a skill, you have an actual practical, visceral skill that you can barter for things. Though that is all wrapped up in kind of the homestead mentality.
I like that. And, it's interesting because this is beyond labels, right? But as soon as you mention homestead, that's a label. And that's why I want to kind of break free and help people break free of that label, because I would consider myself, I guess, a homesteader if you have to label it, because I homeschool. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's kind of a mentality that you have. It's like, it's coming from the heart. It's a heart space. So it's like, if you're focusing your heart, your intention on the home, that to me, that is a homesteader. So if I'm homeschooling, right, then I'm a homesteader. If I'm going out and I'm providing I'm going to a local farmer and I'm supporting them by, getting the food from there and then bringing it home, even if I'm not canning it, but I bought it from the local farmer, bringing it home, and I'm preparing this nice home cooked meal for my kids. My heart is in the home. And so I am homesteading. But what do you think? Am I stretching the bounds of that?
No, you might be stretching a little bit. I don't want to, make it sound like anything goes, but I think the basic concept is we live in a very outside the home mentality lifestyle. The modern home has essentially become a pit stop between everything that's meaningful in life that takes place outside the home. And so to me, while the actual idea of homesteading, obviously it was developed by Abraham Lincoln in the Homestead Act, and I have a chapter on that whole, how that developed and what came of the 1862 Homestead Act, where the word was actually coined and used, and so I think that the notion that the home becomes that our life becomes home-centric as opposed to outside home-centric. So this includes, making your own entertainment. Think about Laura Ingalls Wilder and how, people wrote poetry. They made little plays in their house. Our kids did marionette shows, that they invented themselves, and then they'd call Teresa and I up and they'd put on this little marionette show with their little, stuff. We didn't even know that they were doing it, but why could they do it? Well, because our life was not taken up by being outside the home all the time. And so there was time to actually develop entertainment, skills, competency, proficiency at tasks. This was all part of a home-centric lifestyle.
Yeah, I think this book is so timely because we are seeing this in our culture, that there's kind of an erosion, right? Erosion of the family unit, right? There's an erosion of a feeling of self-worth.
Yes.
An erosion of even like self-love, right? Mm-hmm. And feeling like we have accomplished something, right? These things are all kind of eroding in our culture. And you have chapters in this book where you are specifically addressing this, in particular for children, right? Mm-hmm. So and one of them that caught my eye was a chapter titled "I Like Me."
Yes.
And that's fantastic. This is so, I think I have really affected you, Joel.
Yeah.
This is my whole thing.
I know you have. Of course you have. Sina, can I read a couple paragraphs from this?
I would love that.
Yes. The chapter's title, "I Like Me." So here it goes. Am I valuable? If so, where is my value best actualized? What can I contribute to society, to family, to the world? These are heady questions with profound practical implications. Affirming individual worth and feeling needed are primal requirements for emotional and physical functionality. Nearly every school shooting involves a person who feels worthless or unworthy. Whether it's bullying, poor grades, not fitting in, or socio-political prejudice, these violent people, by and large, feel unable to contribute positively. In vengeance, retribution, or a final effort to be noticed, they commit horrendous violence against others. That's how that chapter starts. And, next page, at any rate, the two things that constantly seem to bubble to the surface when dealing with unhappy young people are affirmation and expectations. And so the chapter goes on to talk about here is my completely unscientific, anecdotal, old geezer observational hypothesis. All right, here it is. Accomplishment drives worthiness. Accomplishment drives worthiness. The rest of this chapter builds on this idea. and you know, I go on in that. So yes, this book is about why and the societal and familial ramifications that happen when we actually have things like chores to do, meaningful tasks. Self-worth comes from successfully accomplishing meaningful tasks. It doesn't come from patting your children on the head saying you're a good little boy, good little girl. Um, um, no, self-worth develops from successfully accomplishing meaningful tasks. And unfortunately, in many homes today, children don't actually have any meaningful tasks to do. You know, food comes from the grocery store. You know, mom cleans the toilets. Somebody else does the laundry. I mean, when our daughter went to college, she was in a suite. She was off campus in a suite with, there were 4 girls per suite. And she was the only one of the 4 who knew how to run a vacuum cleaner. She was the only one of the 4 who knew how to take the trash out to the sidewalk. She was the only one of the 4 who brought any. I'm sure she's the only student that actually took more food than clothing. When we took her to school, we canned all this meat and different things, you know, and she had these, and we come taking in boxes of pint jars of canned chicken, you know, and all this stuff. And girls, what in the world is that? You know, I mean, she was the only one who knew how to cook. You know, and so guess what? That means when the other 3 got drunk, who did they call to bring them home? They called her. And so this is the feeling your own affirmation and worth comes from actually practically and viscerally accomplishing meaningful tasks. And a homestead offers that. You know, there's chores to do. There's eggs to put away. There's canning to do. There's all these other things.
And so you mentioned cooking. So cooking would be considered in your definition as part of homesteading, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Then yeah. I am a homesteader.
Sure. Again, the homestead mentality is that you're not buying a bunch of jars and cans of processed stuff from the supermarket, where you're putting yourself, you know, on the nefarious agendas of the World Economic Forum and Bill Gates. Rather, you're actually again, I like the pack rat idea. You know, you're out, you're finding, you're vetting, and you're sleuthing, you're finding provenance and doing and using your kitchen to prepare, package, process, preserve. Okay. And you're doing that yourself and laying by for yourself in your own larder. And guess what? That gives lots and lots of meaningful tasks for children to do. Hey, screw on those lids, wash those jars, snap those beans, cut that corn off the cob, measure out the, you know, get a 1/4 cup of salt, whatever, you know, and all of that, you know, so you've got fractions, you've got math, you've got dexterity, all these things. And when you're done, you have this wonderful food, you sit down and you eat it, and you know, hey, I did that. You know, I helped with that. And that is successfully accomplishing a meaningful task. And that creates identity. Sina, we have a youth identity crisis in this country right now. And you talk to any school counselor, read the news. I mean, it is an epidemic of identity problems in our young people. And part of that, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but from what I read, I'm convinced that much of it is that we have abdicated our youth, our children, from their meaningful tasks. I mean, we don't even have paper boys anymore. You know, think of the children. I mean, I ran into a lady. She grew up in Washington State when the apples were first coming into the state, all the big apple orchards. and she said, in the summer during apple picking season, the orchards would contract with the school division to use the school buses. They'd publish their schedule, so all the kids knew if they wanted a few dollars, they could look at the schedule, and if they just showed up at the bus stop at 8 o'clock on Thursday morning, and they had a height ruler. You had to be so tall, so you had to stand up against the little thing. You had to be this tall, and if you were that tall, then you jumped on the bus. Think about this: you jumped on the bus, you went out to the orchard, and you picked apples all day. You got paid cash on the spot, and you had money to go to the matinee movie or buy mom and dad a Christmas present, that sort of thing. I mean that whole concept now is just so foreign to the average person to even think that you mean the public schools collaborated with local businesses. Oh no, that's aiding and abetting businesses, from the public largesse, and kids all going out to work and exploiting children, and we've got it's crazy, and the result of all this is that we have a youth identity crisis in our culture.
Thank you for joining us on Beyond Labels. Our mission with this podcast is to make it accessible to everyone.
But we are behind a paywall because the issues we discuss are often subject to censorship. We've run into that, and so we have an extremely modest paywall to let us have the freedom to discuss the kind of issues we want to discuss in the way we want to discuss them. And you can become a member and enjoy all this content by clicking on the description box below. We look forward to having you join our family.